Hello, welcome to the Questionable Calls podcast. It's Saturday, Super Bowl Saturday. Be about a little after 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, Clark, Super Bowl coming up. Feels like for me, it feels like sports is kind of rounding into something. We got football kind of finishing up here. Basketball's kind of taking off with the trade deadline, and I feel like there's gonna be a lot to talk about. Especially we got the draft stuff coming up. We got so this is a really I know most people are like, "Oh, disappointed football season's over," but to me, I kind of get more excited. I get kind of a burst of energy from this because I kind of feel like this is going to be a fun period of time. This next 2 months is going to be
I'm
fun.
excited about baseball. I haven't. I don't think I've uttered that phrase in a long time, but I'm
Wow.
actually kind of. They probably start. They'll start spring training in like less than a month. I mean, and then the season will be started. I'm kind of. I had fun watching the Marlins. At the end of the year last year, and then watching the other playoff games and stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. I mean, obviously the NBA. I'll get into it as we get closer to stuff. And we'll see if I watch. I mean, I watched the March Madness last year because FAU was in it. So I don't know. We'll see if I keep watching it. I don't. That's a whole other thing. I just think college basketball is kind of. It's just not that. It's just not that great.
Well, I think college basketball is a 3 week sport. That's kind of how it is with when the tournament shows up, and the women's game is really taken off. It's a little disturbing that some of the women's games are getting higher ratings than NBA games. So that's a
Yeah.
little wild, but yeah, I definitely the tournament is definitely it's I think the tournament is a lot of fun, but yeah, getting there is it's kind of
Well,
I'm
and did you see Steph Curry is going to be doing a 3 point
yeah,
3 point competition against what's her name?
Sabrina Ionescu, yeah,
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
yeah, I think
So
that's
that'll be
gonna be
fun to
fun.
watch.
Yeah, I think
The slam dunk thing has gotten kind of boring, but I still like the 3 point shootout. I always find that fun.
yeah, and they're gonna have the G League guy in the dunk contest again, Mac McClung. So
Okay,
that
that's right.
should be fun. He kind of made it happen last year. Otherwise, it was pretty much a dud. But yeah, I think the All Star stuff is fun, even though it's made for kids, and I get that it's not for it's not really for us. But at the same time, I think it's a lot of fun. And anytime you can bring the women's game and the men's game together, that's really cool because there's legitimate like star players in women's basketball, and so that's really cool. But all right, so let's jump in. Super Bowl tomorrow. It's been really. I mean, let's just start here, Clark. Let's talk about some of the fascinating or not fascinating, but interesting things that we've heard, in the couple of weeks leading up to it, because the Super Bowl is such a huge deal now. I mean, it's just constant, and that it was in Vegas. You had all those people, going there. So, everybody doing all their media stuff this week. Everybody goes overboard because it's a Super Bowl. Everybody's paying attention. So it's really kind of interesting, and I find it fascinating how I think in the case of the New England Patriots, how all of that stuff, I was really kind of interested in that because Mike Lombardi went on one of the Boston radio shows, and then Tom Curran had him on too, and then there's a bunch of discussion about the Patriots and what's wrong, what's the deal with Belichick and why doesn't Belichick have a job and what happened when he was here, and all the post-mortem stuff is coming out. And this is not a criticism of the Boston media, but I just want to point out they hold some grudges. And they tend to come after people when people leave Boston. All the stories and hit pieces come out about everything that was wrong with them and what the hell were they doing and all this stuff. And it just cracks me up. And for a guy like Belichick who's won 6 Super Bowls, the media has no niceties in their game. They just came right after him, And so I think it's really fascinating. But I thought that was to me one of the really interesting stories about this week. So what did you think? What do you think about the whole what do you think about the whole Belichick Patriots conversation?
So it's just. I mean, I don't know with the Patriots thing. I mean, I probably have more thoughts about just the coaching thing, but the Patriots thing. I mean, yeah, I'm not really surprised. I mean, Boston media, they kind of yeah, they'll run people out of town pretty quickly if they don't like them, and and it's a lot of it's what have you done for me lately, which is just which is pretty hilarious. I mean, go back to, let's say, I don't know, the year 2000, okay? And let's think about Boston sports, right? The Celtics, I think they'd been to the Eastern Conference Finals maybe a couple years earlier, but it had been kind of a mess ever since Larry Bird was done, ever since really the late 80s. And then when Reggie Lewis died,
Yep.
unexpectedly. So the Celtics were kind of, it's not really happening. The Patriots, they had been to the Super Bowl twice. They got blown out by the Bears, and then they actually almost beat the Packers. And then Parcells leaves, and they're kind of going downhill, right? The Red Sox, I mean, pre-2004, the Red Sox, I mean, we don't need to get into it. I mean, they couldn't. They struggled to get to the World Series. They couldn't win the World Series. They were kind of they had the whole curse thing, the curse of the Bambino and whatever. And the Bruins, I mean, they had like Cam Neely, who I think he got like cancer or something. He had to stop playing. Ray Bork was there forever, and then he just left and he went to
Colorado,
and then to win a Stanley Cup. So and it's like so he has to leave here to win a Stanley Cup. So yeah, Boston sports was kind of, you guys weren't, title town. And then the Patriots come along and they just start racking up, Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl victories. The Red Sox, they win a bunch of World Series. The Bruins are good. They win one Stanley Cup. They almost win another. They've been really good, the last few years. The Celtics win a championship. They go to the finals again. They're sort of on the right path here. So it's just it's one of those things. It's like, I don't feel like you guys have a right to get really upset about anything for a while, because you guys have had it pretty good. As if you try to think of other sports cities in America that have had it as good as, the Boston, New England area, you'd be hard pressed to really find any. I mean, I can't think of another city where they're just racking up championships like this in the last 25 years.
Yeah, no, it's they had an unbelievable run. And, but I mean, I do agree with the idea that these things always end poorly, because that's true. They always do end badly. And, I just think it's funny. There's no middle ground, right? It's either, well, Belichick sucked and Brady did everything, right? There's that whole thing. Or, Belichick, how good was Belichick really? So it's just this crazy revisionist history stuff where I think the truth, like in my view, the truth is, like, yeah, you had probably the greatest coach of all time, and right as of now, the greatest quarterback of all time, and you guys had an incredible run. Brady left. Belichick did a lot of stuff that, Belichick did a lot of things that were fireable, right? The way they handled Tom Brady at the end, like, you told the owner he couldn't play anymore, and you refused to take him at a severe discount, and you still wouldn't re-sign him. And then you told the owner, no, he's not any good, and then he goes and wins the Super Bowl. Like, to me, that's every coach in the league gets fired if that happens. So and then this thing was coming this whole time where you knew Brady was going to leave. They have no plan with the quarterback. Like, they literally, like, they had zero plan. Like, Brady leaves and they're like, oh, well, maybe we'll get Cam Newton. And they signed him in like June. Like, they had no clue what was going on. And while at the same time, I do agree Belichick's a great coach, the offense is a joke. And yeah. I don't agree with the sentiment, well, if he'd just got the quarterback right. Well, yeah, that's probably true. That would have helped, but he completely screwed up the quarterback. So, and I'm not saying Mac Jones doesn't deserve culpability here. He absolutely does. He didn't play well. And that's part of the discussion. But yeah, I don't understand why we can't just tell the truth about this, and we've all got to go completely one-sided. Like, the way yes, Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, and the way he left the team is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's funny, the severe Belichick defenders. I don't quite understand it. You can't defend the way that this has gone the last 3 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. And at the same time, like, you gotta respect what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to we had to take a little break there for a minute, but talking about the Patriots issues and going forward, I just to repeat myself, I don't understand why we can't just acknowledge Belichick's a great coach and probably doesn't is not the same as he used to be. But also, I think I still think Belichick might get a job next year. I'm not out on he's going to get another job. Now, if I were running a team, would I choose him? I wouldn't. But I still believe that I think number one, there's some teams that were a little scared off by giving Belichick control of the team, and I think that control is a big deal when we're talking about these teams, owners, front offices, and all of that stuff. And I also think, and this was basically kind of acknowledged by Steve Young. There's like 5 to 7 like well-run teams in the NFL, and everybody else is of varying degrees of bad to kind of average to above average. And that's a big part of why he didn't get hired this cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, Arthur. Now, for whatever this is worth, Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, was quoted as saying that Belichick never asked for like total control of the organization. For whatever that's worth, I mean, again, this is coming out after the fact, so when people say different stuff at this point, it's usually it's to serve their own agenda, to protect themselves or make them look a certain way. So again, whatever that's worth, I don't know. But yeah, that is a really great comment by Steve Young. I mean, okay, so just real quick, if you had to take a guess, who would you name as the 5 to 7 organizations that are run really well?
Well, obviously the two teams in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
The Chiefs, the 49ers. I still put the Eagles in there. I think they maybe they have the wrong head coach, but that's a well-run organization. I mean, Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit's actually climbing up the list. That wouldn't be a team I might have put on there a year ago, but yeah.
I put the Packers on there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Packers are definitely well run.
Maybe put the Steelers on there. I mean, I don't see why. I mean, they granted we've got criticism, but they're not in contention for the Super Bowl. But I mean, they continue to have a lot of talent on their teams, and they continue to have winning seasons and win games and make the playoffs. So I mean, that's I think that kind of goes without saying. Other than that, I don't know. That's tough. Then you get really, the Ravens. I'll put the Ravens there. I think the Ravens are really well run. God, beyond that, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I think there's another group kind of below that where it's like they're pretty well run. Maybe we need to see a little more. Okay, the Rams, they seem to be doing a pretty decent job. So yeah, but it gets after that, it gets kind of tough. Find it, you're like, yeah, that team's okay. Maybe I don't know. The Bengals, it feels like they still finished with a winning record, even though Burrow got hurt. So that tells me something. But the Bengals, I'm kind of critical. I'm not ready to go all in on that.
Yeah, historically, they're probably somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Right.
And so yeah, the Steelers, interesting one. I think some teams that are worth talking about would be like Seattle, or could be the Chargers. They may be turning themselves into something, but you can't really put them on the list of anything because of their history. I think they'll turn it around, but does that mean they're going to become a really well-run team? Probably not. So yeah, you're right. There's a small handful of them, and that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's go through. Let's break down the teams. We'll say a little bit about each team, and then we'll go into what we think is going to happen in the game. Starting with the Chiefs. I mean, I'm racking my brain, Clark, and if anybody has a comment on this, tell me if you can find this team. But I don't know. I've never seen especially in my lifetime, and that goes back to when I started watching the Super Bowl in the late '80s. I can't imagine a team, or I don't remember a team that was kind of a B- team most of the season, and we're like, what's happening here? And then they get into the playoffs and turn into like an A+ team. I can't recall. Now, there have been teams who have gotten hot at the end of the season, right? Tampa, when they had Brady, they were 7-5. They got hot. They went and won the Super Bowl. That's happened numerous times. The Giants back in 2007, the Steelers with Roethlisberger the first year they won it. It's happened numerous times where a team gets hot at the end, in December after Thanksgiving, and then carries it on and wins the Super Bowl. That's happened before. But I've never seen a team where a Christmas Day we're like, what's this team sucks. Well, I mean, that's what we were saying when they got their ass kicked by the Raiders. We're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then they get into the playoffs and they do everything perfectly. All of a sudden, all the problems that they had go away. It's like, they can't catch the ball. Well, no, we're going to catch the ball now. Travis Kelce looks like he slowed down. Now he's going to have 11 catches in the AFC Championship game. It's kind of like, so it's just like, it just blows my mind. It's kind of like, what the hell, man? Like, we're watching this whole season, and I'll get to my point about, what do we make of the regular season now? But that's my take on the Chiefs. Like, yeah, if you're going to play like this, sure, you can win the Super Bowl. So it's like everybody's like, well, you have to how they played in the season. By the way, it doesn't matter how they played all regular season. That's irrelevant now because of, they've obviously showed you that doesn't make any difference. So, yeah, so I feel like the Chiefs have gotten themselves into a great position to win this game. I think they're going to win this game on defense. But, I can't explain how the Chiefs are here, but I've got to acknowledge where they're at. So what do you think?
So, yeah, I'm getting kind of like, it's like New England Patriots, maybe even like Tiger Woods vibes here. And so let me explain the Tiger Woods thing. It felt like, he would get to Sunday and he'd have the lead, and Tiger would just kind of keep playing well, and then everybody around him would just, they're hitting balls into the water, they can't stay on the fairway, they can't make shots, they can't, whatever else, right? And so then he just kind of moves right through the middle of that, and then would win the tournament. And then the Patriots, it's like, you're watching games with them, and it's almost like a San Antonio Spurs thing too, where you're watching. It's like, yeah, we can beat this team. We're in this game. We got a shot, and then we need to make a few plays, and then we don't make them. And then the other team does, and then Bruce Bowen hits a 3, and then you lose. It's just like what the hell happened? We were right there, like we had it, and then and so it felt like maybe forget the Dolphins game because we don't need to go into the Dolphins. We didn't believe in the Dolphins all year long, and them losing to Kansas City and just having no shot in the second half is not surprising at all. But let's focus on the divisional round against the Bills and then the AFC Championship game against the Ravens. The Bills were playing well in the first half, and the Chiefs they were being really, really efficient when they actually had the ball. And then I think the Bills got, they're like, oh, well, it's the Chiefs, and I don't know if teams get nervous or whatever. They try to do a fake punt, which was a terrible decision. And fortunately, the guy fumbled, so that bailed him out. And then the Bills had a couple other chances where they needed to make some plays, and they didn't make them. Then the Chiefs made a few other plays, and then they win the game. And you're like, what the hell's like? Man, it looked like the Bills had them, And then the Ravens game, I mean, they weren't behind that much the whole time, And then they're like, they should be running the ball. They're not running the ball, and then. The Zay Flowers is acting like an idiot. Like, I don't know what the hell he's doing. Then he fumbles the ball, and it's like, and still they had chances to win the game. Their defense was playing well. But, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess this is kind of how this goes with dynasties, where other teams just sort of fall out of the way, like they get nervous or something. I don't know what it is.
And we've seen that in the playoff games. Like these teams kind of overreact to they're reacting to the Chiefs as if these are last year's Chiefs or 3 years ago Chiefs, where they just they're going to score. And I felt like Baltimore panicked and like, oh, we got to throw the ball because we got to catch up now. And it's like if you've watched the Chiefs the whole season, they struggle to score 20 points in a game. So It's not like you're never out of it. So there's no reason to panic. So yeah, I'm I have to say I'm impressed. I'm surprised, but it's kind of like, and the thing is, Clark, the other thing? No, why is no one talking about this? Like the only person I heard bring it up was Chris Sims with this week, where he's like, we're going to kind of be B- football, whatever. And then we get to the playoffs, like, all right, time to put our A game on. And they just flip the switch. It's like, has football turned into basketball now? Like, are we just going to dink around in the regular season? Is this how it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's really hard to put I don't really get it, and I don't think, okay, Nick Wright and the other Chiefs fans, like, I don't think you guys should get used to this because I don't think this is a formula to keep winning Super Bowls. to screw around like they did in the regular season. I don't think that's going to work. But I don't necessarily think that's going to continue to be the case. I think they'll draft some other talent on offense and they'll kind of figure things out, and their defense is just going to keep getting better. So I think they'll figure that out. But yeah, this year's just weird. I don't really know what to make of it. And again, it's like we were saying before, we weren't wrong about the Chiefs. Okay, we weren't wrong to pick these other teams and have doubts about them. What else are we supposed to go on? We're
Right.
supposed to just give you the benefit of the doubt based on the past couple years. We're not supposed to look at what's happening right now. Like that's just I don't. It's just a weird thing. So I don't know. I guess do you want to talk about what we think is going to happen in the game?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the 49ers. I think and by the way, the Chiefs are just it's inexplicable. Like I said, I'm going to try to do some more research on this, but I can't find a team that was mostly average through the regular season and then just exploded in the playoffs like this. I just don't. It's not something we've seen before, which is why we weren't prepared for it. The 49ers, look, this is a really good team. I would argue that you go 53-man roster, the 49ers have a better team than the Chiefs do. But they haven't played like it. The 49ers were really good most of the season, and then they lost that game to Baltimore, and it's like we don't know what we're getting every week. The defense can't get any pressure on the quarterback. I don't know what's going on with their offense in the first half of these last two games, where it's just like, what are we doing? Purdy's almost he's almost thrown 4 or 5 interceptions in these two games. So I don't know what's happening, but it's still a really good team. You can't count them out. And so, I think that I think the Shanahan. I want to talk about this for a second. I think the criticism and the way we're treating Shanahan is a bit crazy. Shanahan's gotten to the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. You can think whatever you want of Matt Ryan. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. He's made the Super Bowl with those 3 quarterbacks. And we're still like, well, Shanahan, it's kind of overrated. Can he win the big game? Like, it's just, I feel like we're doing the same thing with Shanahan that we used to do with Andy Reid. We're just like, oh, man, he gets nervous and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's just complete nonsense. The 49ers are not going to lose the game because Kyle Shanahan gets nervous. They're not going to lose the game because, oh, my God, he got tight. Like, does everybody, like, revisionist history, like, I'd like to bring it up. Like, the 49ers had a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl over the Chiefs. Okay, Garoppolo has a guy wide open for a touchdown. Doesn't hit him. Overthrows him. Okay, if that doesn't happen, maybe they win that game, and we're not having this stupid discussion about how smart whether Shanahan can get it done or not.
And I know people don't want to hear this, but the critical play of that Super Bowl, it was like 3rd down or something. The Chiefs were still down by 10. And if you watch that play, like a lot of 49ers fans are like, I think that the Chiefs offensive line was holding on that play. Now, again, holding is highly subjective. There was also a call, I think, toward the end of the first half. It was like a pass interference call, like an offensive PI or something like that. That sort of prevented, the 49ers from getting more points. I remember them being really upset about that. So, and I still, I don't know if it was Tyreek Hill or somebody else. I still don't think they scored a touchdown on this one play. Like, the guy was running towards the corner, and I'm like, I don't think the ball crossed the plane. Anyway, but the thing
is, it's third. It's 3rd and 18, right? All you got to do is stop them on that play. They couldn't stop him. They let Mahomes roll out of the pocket. He throws the ball up to Tyreek Hill. Like, who else do you think is going to get the ball there? They let him complete that, and then Garoppolo misses the deep pass. Like, we're acting like, oh man, Shanahan really just doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I'm sorry, like, this is ridiculous. Whatever you think of Brock Purdy, you can't sit there and tell me he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. And maybe I'll be wrong in 10 years. Maybe he'll be the next Drew Brees or whatever. But that's not what he is now. So yeah, I think the Shanahan criticism is ridiculous. I think the 49ers have a great chance to win this game. Even I like the Chiefs to win, but even though I still think it's going to be close, I don't think either one of these teams is going to blow the other one out. And let's talk about the game. I think the key to the game is the 49ers defense. Their defensive line has got to get pressure on the quarterback. They've got to make it happen. I believe they can stop the run. And we're all going, well, look at what the Detroit's offense did to them. Detroit's offense is way, way better than the Chiefs offense is.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're not facing some unbelievable offense in this game. The game is basically, let's get down, make sure we double team Kelsey and stop the run. That's the main focus of the game because the Chiefs just don't have a lot of guys to throw to. So I think that's the best. That to me is the path to win, because if you keep this game around, you keep the Chiefs 20 points or under, then I think then it's like, oh, well, now Brock Purdy doesn't have to do that much. We're not talking about, oh, Brock Purdy's got to throw for 300 yards and have this amazing game. Then you can just be McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Just get the ball to your guys, because I think it's going to be hard for San Francisco to score.
Well, I'll say this. Don't do what the Ravens did. Run the damn ball. Like, don't get, like you said, the Chiefs aren't going to blow anybody out. Just, you got to keep, now I'm not saying you don't throw the ball at all, but, you need to throw it. But, you got Christian McCaffrey, okay? Run the ball. Like, try to keep the Chiefs off the field, control the clock, try to win up front. That's probably your best, that, and then you do stuff off of that with, all the weapons they have, on the outside.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I don't think, I'm not worried about Shanahan getting away from it. Shanahan has his offense. He runs it. He's not going to fall apart. When they were down 17 points to Detroit, they didn't stop running the ball. So I'm really not worried about the 49ers going to that. The reason, I think the Chiefs will win this game because of their defense. I think the defense will make it easier for the Chiefs offense. And I think that they can, I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. But I will say this, the Chiefs cannot have the same game plan they had against Baltimore. If you're like, we're going to just blitz the shit out of them, that's a bad idea. Shanahan's going to have answers to that. You're not going to be able to get away with, you're going to have to play San Francisco a lot more straight up because of all the weapons that they have and all the motion that they do and all that stuff. So I think they can do it, but I think they're going to have to play a little more conventional in this game. They can't just, if they think they're just going to blitz the quarterback and get away with it. This offense is built to beat that.
Yeah. And I'll say this to people who think that there could possibly be a blowout by the Chiefs. Most of the people who think that are just being Chiefs homers. Over the past 20 years, just about every Super Bowl is close. Literally, like every one. I'm trying to think of, there was a Seattle Super Bowl where they blew out the Broncos, but that Seattle defense was just a historically great defense. Okay. I don't think we're there yet with the Chiefs defense or the 49ers defense for that matter. And then what else? There was the Buccaneers Super Bowl. Well, that was weird because John Gruden coached the other team the year before. So, usually you got to have some scenario like that for there to be a blowout. Usually that's not what happens. All these games are pretty, within a possession or maybe 10 points or something in the second half. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only Super Bowls where that happens is where the defense just absolutely overwhelms the offense. And I just don't, San Francisco is too good. Even if you slow them down for a little while, you're not going to stop them the whole game. So I just that's how and
the Chiefs offense, come on, they're, like we said, they're not blowing it. They don't blow anybody out. They can't blow people out right now. So people need to stop that.
Yeah, so I think it just that's to me the key thing is the 49ers defense coming to play and showing up. If they do, then I think it'll be a competitive game. And Clark, if we're talking again, I'm thinking it's like a 23-20, 24-21 type game. And if that's the case, then the 49ers can win. If it's close in the fourth quarter, then anybody can win. If it only takes, like that. Remember when the Giants beat the Patriots the first time in 2007? The Giants had maybe 2 good drives in the game. That's all it took. You don't have to be, So I think that's what. And I feel like this is the kind of game where we're going to get to the end, Clark, and I'm going to be like. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't think this team's awesome. No matter who wins this game, I don't think I'm gonna be thrilled in this team. And just before we'll move on, they want to talk about something else here, but okay, so San Francisco continues to be favored by 1.5, 2.5 points. This feels like a trap, Clark. This feels like Vegas is trying to get everybody to take the Chiefs because they know everybody loves Mahomes and they all know who he is. Right. And all the most of the professional money, the majority of it is on the 49ers. So I feel like I'm going to take the Chiefs because I'm going to enroll with it. But I feel like we're going to get there 10:30 Sunday night and I'm going to be like, God, I'm an idiot. I fell for it. They're snookering us.
Yeah, that'll be, that's going to be, it's just going to be fun. I feel like no matter what happens, we're just going to come out of this with Brock Purdy and just be like, yeah, he's fine. Like we're just gonna. I don't think we're gonna see anything that's gonna. Yeah, that dude's amazing. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think everyone's just gonna kind of retreat to their corners.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So the Brock Purdy conversation, by the way, best sports topic in years that I can think of going right now, because nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong. No matter what the outcome is, everybody's right. So it's just going to be fascinating, because you're going to have all the people who are telling you Brock Purdy's elite. And you have all the people telling you, no, Brock Purdy's overrated, whatever. It's because San Francisco's got an awesome roster and all that stuff. And the whole time, my attitude has been, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need to be an elite quarterback. All he's got to do is play well enough for them to win the Super Bowl. That's what he's got to do. We've turned this into, you have to be some kind of legend to win. No, he doesn't. He's just got to play well enough to get it done on this team in this game. Like, if he can do that, then we're all set. But it won't stop everybody from flying off the handle, whether he wins or whether he loses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's just, everyone's going to retreat to their corners and they're going to feel the same way. It is funny to me, like the way that we analyze sports now. It's like, what if we applied this to sports like 30, 40 years ago? Like, how different would we think about quarterbacks or NBA players or, whatever else? Because you go back and look at the stats of some of these games, what's really funny is, I'll just try to give you a few examples. So Joe Montana was on Dan Patrick's show the other day, and he was talking about how, yeah, I get all this credit for winning the 81 NFC Championship game, but I really didn't play that well. I had like 3 interceptions and I fumbled the ball, but I throw a touchdown pass and everybody's like, oh, you're great. So, whatever. It's just like, imagine if that happens now, or, some people may be too young to remember this. When the Broncos won their first Super Bowl and they're playing the Packers, guys, the only thing they could do on offense basically was run the ball. Like the Packers were like, you're not throwing the ball. I think Elway had like maybe he had 2 interceptions in the game. I can't remember. Like, he really they didn't complete a pass to a wide receiver until like the fourth quarter. He had a few throws here and there to running backs and stuff, and then they just ran the ball. That's basically all they did, And so it's like, oh yeah, he finally wins the Super Bowl. Well, it's like, yeah, he wasn't really the reason why they won it. The next year, I guess you could say that he was the reason why they won it, because they threw the ball a bunch and they blew out the Atlanta Falcons. But it's just kind of funny how people are like, oh, you win it, so now we're just like, oh, well, you're great, you're Super Bowl champion. It's, everything's fine. We're going to kind of.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree. This is a great topic because yeah, could you imagine? Dan Marino overrated. That's what it would have been. Right after that, he goes to the Super Bowl his second year. The next 5-10 years would have been, Dan Marino's overrated. John Elway's a loser. You can't win with that guy. That guy sucks. Why are we keeping him? You know what? They really need to trade him. Like, that's what it would have been, Clark. John Elway trade talk.
Tom Brady had like 98 yards passing until the final drive in that first Super Bowl that he won. Literally, basically, he threw a touchdown pass and a few other passes, and that was it until the last drive of the game. That was it. And it's like, oh, this guy's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, you go through and Brady is a perfect example, Clark. You go through these Super Bowls. So the first one, they got a pick 6. That was basically how they scored, and then he managed to lead them on a drive where he basically threw the ball to the running back a couple of times, and they kicked a field goal, right? The second Super Bowl, they really weren't playing well. He throws an interception in the end zone. There's this fourth quarter that's insane where teams are just going back and forth scoring, and they managed to hang on to get a field goal to win that game. Right? Philadelphia was just like, okay, let's get the lead and hang on to it. That's basically what it was.
McNabb is throwing up on the field, because he's out. His conditioning, I guess, wasn't up to where it was supposed to be. So
right. They played well enough to win, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this performance. And then the Super Bowl against the Giants, especially the first one, it was like, what's going on with this team? It was like, what's wrong with them? They couldn't really do anything till the second half. They're down by 10 points to Seattle. They're down 28-3 to Atlanta. So it's not like Brady's going out lighting the world on fire. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Brady, because he did what they did what they needed to win those games. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, it's so ridiculous the way that we cover sports.
And he's had some awful playoff games. He had an awful playoff game against the Tennessee Titans one year. He I'm trying to think of some other games.
Oh, the first Denver Broncos game that he lost.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was terrible.
Oh,
Baltimore,
God, he was terrible
remember
in that game.
the year he came back, after he came back from the injury, Baltimore beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and then they played Baltimore another time, and the Patriots won the game, but Brady played like shit. The Ravens should have won the game, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the way. This is just
and
the way
he
that it
didn't
works.
play that all that well in the playoff run with the Buccaneers.
Right.
Like, he really didn't. He didn't play well against the.
He threw
the
2
Saints.
interceptions against the Saints. Like the Packers. He's throwing interceptions against the Packers. Like, no, it was the defense basically. They kind of led him to the Super Bowl. So yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't take anything away from Brady. It's just the way we cover this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And Brock Purdy will be crowned if he wins this game. And by the way, so let's go through this, Clark. So we both think the Chiefs are going to win. That's our logical brain pick. But what do we want to happen in the game? So this is what I want. I want the Tom Brady first Super Bowl experience. I want San Francisco to score a defensive touchdown. Purdy plays kind of okay, hangs in there, has a drive at the end to win the game. That's what I think would be, for me, that would be the most unbelievable story, because the next day, the Brock Purdy lovers would be like, Brock Purdy's amazing. He's elite. Give him a new contract, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody who's hated on him is going to be like, dude, really? He didn't do anything in the game. Really? They won the game because of the defense. That's what I'm rooting for. That would be so freaking amazing. Just because I kind of want that to happen, just for Brock Purdy to stick it to everybody. I think it would be great.
Yeah. Well, I put it this way, guys. I don't really. I think, to me, the more interesting thing would be the 49ers winning.
Right.
So however they win, to me that's more interesting. So I'm going to root for that. Just larger view. Basically, when I'm watching sports, and this is basically what I do. If it's not my team, if my team's not involved, I'm a Dolphins fan, a Miami Heat fan, to a lesser extent, Florida Marlins, or Miami Marlins and Florida Panthers fan. But if my team's not involved, and really think about it, most of the time your team isn't involved in the championship most years. So when I'm watching, because I'm a huge football and basketball fan, so I'm going to watch. So in order for me to make the game interesting, I pick a hero and a villain. And to me, the hero would be the 49ers and the villain would be the Chiefs. And not really because I hate on the Chiefs or anything. I really don't hate the Chiefs. I like to root against dynasties, and then afterwards, when they keep winning, I'm like, all right, you guys are pretty good. I give you credit, whatever. That's just kind of how I go about things. But so yeah, in this game, I'll be rooting for the 49ers. If you're asking me who I'm going to pick, I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I'm going to root for the 49ers. When the Patriots were trying to go undefeated, I rooted like crazy for the Giants, just because that's what I do. I just, to me, it's more interesting to see the really great team go down. I don't really buy into the whole thing. Oh, well, they're really good. Why don't you want them to just succeed? It's like, well, I don't know. To me, that's just kind of boring. I will say this real quick. I did want to make sure to point this out on the podcast. There have been dynasties that I've really hated on. I don't really hate on the Chiefs. I don't, I'm kind of happy for Andy Reid. He had all these years where he didn't have a great quarterback, but he won all these games, and now he's getting all the credit and all the love because he's getting Super Bowls. So I think that's great. Mahomes is just, he's really good. What else can I say? Steve Spagnuolo is, I don't know, is this guy going to end up in the Hall of Fame as an assistant coach? Maybe, I don't know. He's put up some, he's got some pretty good things on his resume. So I don't really hate on him. I'm going to root against him, but that doesn't mean I'm hating on him. Now, there have been some dynasties that I have hated. Okay. It's weird. The Patriots, I don't know, I sort of hated it a little bit. Toward the end, I was kind of like, all right, can we move on? But I wasn't really annoyed with it. I hated every second of the San Antonio Spurs dynasty. I hated it. It was they were awful to watch. You kept seeing these games. The Phoenix Suns, they kept trying to beat them, and they couldn't beat them, and it was like, what the hell's going on here? They were just incredibly boring to watch. There was nothing fun about it. At least the Chiefs are kind of fun to watch. Mahomes is kind of fun to watch. The Yankees, I hated every second of that. I couldn't wait for that to end. Every year the playoffs would come around and I'd be watching, hoping they would lose and then celebrating when they did lose, So Yeah, those were two that I really didn't like. And then I'm trying to think of other ones. Like Golden State, I never really had a problem with Golden State. I thought they were fun to watch. I mean, maybe after a while it's kind of like, all right, can we let somebody else win? But I don't know. That wasn't really a thing that I was all that angry about. So the Chiefs, again, I'm going to root against them. And look, I will also say this to all the Chiefs fans out there. I'm rooting against it, but if the Chiefs win this one, then look, next year, I think it would be kind of cool to see them three-peat. I'm not a Chiefs fan or anything, but we've never seen that before. And you would think they'd be pretty well positioned to do it. Mahomes is in his prime. The defense is only going to get better. Rashee Rice is pretty good. You still have Travis Kelce, and you would think they could draft some other talent and get their offense better than it was throughout the whole course of this season, right? So they may have the best shot to do a three-peat since the 49ers when they were ahead in the second half to the Giants in 90 or 91. I can't remember what year that was. But, yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm good with either team winning. I have no problem with either one. I'm rooting for the Brock Purdy thing just because I think it would be hysterical to watch the sports media all trip over themselves. I think that would just be more fun, but I'm I'm good with either one. I like both teams. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with either one. I don't like annoying fans when the teams are winning, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Like there aren't that many, it's not like they're not an institution like the New York Yankees where it's just going to be in your face all the time. So I'm good.
I will say this. If I was like a Bills fan, I would probably feel differently. Like I know the Dolphins just lost to them in the playoffs, but come on, it's the Dolphins. I expect this. So if I was a Bills fan, I would probably feel differently, but
well, it is disappointing that we went right from the Patriots dynasty to the Chiefs dynasty. It's like, Jesus Christ, could we get a second for another team to have a chance? It's kind of like if you're in the AFC, it's like, all right, well, that door's closed. It's like, Jesus, like it's not good. All right, so moving on. So Clark, do regular seasons matter anymore? That's the topic I'm going to pose, and I watched a few other people react to this, and I think it was like last year Bill Simmons put out a podcast. Like, do regular seasons even matter anymore? Like we all care about the playoffs. Like these leagues are putting all this energy into the regular season, which other than the NFL, we really don't watch. So it's like, what's going on here? So look, this is just in sports in general. Like, because the Kansas City Chiefs make the Super Bowl, right? It's like we knew they were, we know they're a really good team. They won the Super Bowl last year, but when we watch this whole regular season, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. The 49ers and the Chiefs have the best team, so they're going to be in the Super Bowl, and that's just the end of it. So I mean, in looking at this, just going with this past year, Clark. So the Miami Heat make the finals. They were what, the 8th seed? I think they were the 8th seed in the play-in, and they were losing to Chicago at home in the fourth quarter. And if they'd lost the game, they'd been out. They go to the finals. Okay. Now they lost to Denver. Okay. Denver was the best team in the regular season, but it's not like Denver's some kind of regular season juggernaut anyway. And, we already talked about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, right? The regular season has really mattered in college football forever. We got a 12-team playoff now, so it's going to matter less. Like, there's no way around that. It's just going to be less significant. It's just going to be about, can you get into the playoff? College basketball, we don't watch the regular season. Nobody cares about it.
It doesn't matter at all.
No one cares about it until the tournament, and then everybody watches. We all tune in because the tournament is super exciting, right? I mean, baseball, the regular season's never mattered. Like, especially now, once we in the mid '90s when we went to more playoff teams, it's like, well, basically just now that we've seen all these baseball teams, like I think the St. Louis Cardinals won like 84 games one year and won the World Series. So it literally just, baseball is just, what's your payroll?
Well, especially really what just happened in the playoffs this past year. All these teams that won all these games, they just lost. I mean, it was crazy. So, yeah.
All the teams that won a lot of games went out. I mean, hockey, the regular season, literally, you want to talk about regular seasons not mattering. In hockey, it's just completely irrelevant.
The Bruins were like historically great, and the Florida Panthers beat them. They were the 8th seed, right?
Yep.
And they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep. Florida Panthers beat them in the first round. And then I threw this one at the end because I just think it's funny. Doc Rivers is coaching the All-Star game for the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, so the Milwaukee Bucks fired their coach it feels like 2 weeks ago. It was probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Okay, they bring in a new coach, and the rule is like with 2 weeks to go for the first half, whichever team has the best record gets to coach the All-Star game. I don't know if that's the rule because Milwaukee doesn't have the best record, but I don't know. Maybe I forget how the rules work. But so Doc Rivers is coaching the All-Star game, which again, like, what are we doing? Does the regular season do we even care? Like Milwaukee had a winning record. They're like 30-13. They're like, yeah, we're not going to win the championship. Let's fire the coach. It's just
yeah.
So yeah, Clark, I'm not. And I'm trying to think, am I against it, right? Do I think it should be changed and we should be focused more on it? And I really don't mind it. I've been in favor of more longer playoffs and shorter regular seasons. I've been in favor of that for probably the last 10 years. I just feel like that's the best way to do it. So, so what do you think, Clark? Regular seasons I just feel like we've just completely, it holds no value anymore.
Yeah. It's just been because of a variety of factors, it's kind of moved in that direction. I think the owners of teams care about the regular season because, in baseball, you got, 81 home games. In basketball, you got 41 home games. And then, like in the NFL, there's only so many teams, like it's like a little bit less than half the league makes the playoffs. So the other half, you're not going to get that extra revenue from playoff games. So, yeah, you want to fill up the seats and whatever. So, yeah, I guess financially it matters, but otherwise, you just look at kind of the way outside of football, you look at the way that teams treat the regular season. Like they just don't. In basketball, people are trying to make these declarative statements about like the Minnesota Timberwolves or Oklahoma City or Boston or whoever else or the Clippers. And it's like, yeah, guys, nobody's playing defense right now. Like everything's going to look totally different when these other teams are like, okay, now the games matter. Now we got to play defense. So it's just one of those things where things have kind of moved in that direction. Like we just don't like in the past, 20, 30, 40 years ago or more, it's just like, well, you're playing a game, you go out there and you play your ass off. It's just, that's what you did. In baseball, in the All-Star game, they're playing their ass off because, they're like, well, we want to beat the National League or we want to beat the American League, whatever the case is. And it was just kind of, that's what you did, and people didn't think about, oh, well, what about you don't want to win the championship? Well, yeah, I want to win the championship, but we're playing a game, so I'm going to go out there and, bust my ass to try to win the game. And they're just that. In football, that still exists because you can't just go out there really and lay an egg, because you'll end up losing your job. So, but outside of that, it's, I don't know. Players are just going out there. They're kind of going through the motions. They're getting their money, and then they're kind of whatever. In baseball, they don't even, baseball, you get a little dinged up. They're like, all right, I'm going to sit out this game. Like, it's like, well, do you want to win? It's like, yeah, but, we got other games, and it's just not that big of a, for a variety of reasons, things have kind of moved in that direction. And I don't know how you really go backward, because I can't really blame players like at the highest level who are just like, well, I want to win championships. That's the only thing that matters to me. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do to be set up to do that. So, and if you only do stuff in the regular season, everybody's just going to rip on you. So why am I going to, I don't know. And also now players make way more money than they did 40, 50 years ago, which is kind of hilarious to me that like they didn't make a lot of money way back in the day, yet they were playing their ass off every game. They make way more money now. So you'd almost feel like it would be the reverse. You almost feel like in the past, they'd be like, yeah, I don't really give a shit because you're not paying me that much money. And then now it would be different because they're making so much money because they're financially secure. So they don't have to necessarily worry about their career getting taken away by an injury, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, and there's a really good book by David Halberstam years ago that he wrote about the 78-79 Portland Trailblazers. And he was talking about a lot of that then. That, oh, well, these guys make all this money and they really don't, they don't care as much as they should and whatever. And that was back late 70s when, it was a lot more hotly contested during the regular season than it is now. So it's been a problem and it's not going to go away. And I don't know, Clark. I feel like I should be like, oh man, we need to fix this or whatever, but I honestly am not that upset about it. It's like if you're telling me, all right, tune in for the playoffs, it'll be legit because it'll be urgency and there'll be stuff on the line. I'm kind of okay with it, And I think the NBA is trying to help themselves with the 65 game rule and all of that stuff. But yeah, I just feel like this is just where we are right now. And Clark, I mean, like I said, college football, right? It's 12 teams. I think they're going to go to 16. Like they got 2 years of this TV deal. It's going to go to 16. And then in the NFL, they're going to add an extra game. They're going to add another game, 18 games, and they're going to go to 16 playoff teams. I just think it's going to happen. And so, yeah, the regular season's just been devalued. And I think it's going to continue to be devalued. And so it's like, well, if this Chiefs team wins the Super Bowl, it's like, all right, well, what the hell am I? And I was saying this, like, it just cracks me up, because I was saying this like 2 or 3 years ago. Like, everyone's telling me all these NFL games are really important and they really matter. Do they? Like, because it sure as shit doesn't look like it matters. Baltimore went out there, was unbelievable, kicking everybody's ass. They got the MVP, and doesn't matter. They're playing Mahomes.
They played like shit in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. Right. And it's like Buffalo, we always knew they had some problems, and those surfaced in the playoffs. Like the Dolphins, we knew, okay, we might make the playoffs, but we're not winning anything. So it's just like, I could have predicted, this is the problem. I think this is the real issue, and, we'll get off this topic now, but the real issue to me, Clark, is that we knew what was happening. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was coming. We knew San Francisco had the best team in the NFC. Like it's just, they lost to Philadelphia and their quarterback got hurt in the game last year. It's like, we already knew this. We know Mahomes is the best quarterback. So it's just kind of like, so that's where I think I got tired of the Patriots dynasty at the end, because it's like nothing changes. The Patriots win another Super Bowl, it doesn't change anything. It's not like, oh, well, it'll be vastly different. I'll think about them completely differently if they win 6 Super Bowls instead of 5. It's like, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, all right. So let's move on. So I thought this would be an interesting thing, and I think I think we should do this about every 6 months or so. We'll do some changes that we'd like to see in sports. Now, these are not grievances. Okay, this is not Festivus in February. I just want to put that out there. Like, these are just things that I just kind of messing around, doing a little looking to see what people are interested in, and these are some of the things that I liked. Let's start with college football. The month, as far as attention and TV ratings go, the month of December is wide open. Okay? Like college football, this is my biggest problem with college football all this time, is they don't take advantage of the areas that are available. College football gets 2 weeks of games before the NFL starts. They don't give us really good games. Okay? So my change would be, don't space out these playoff games. We're going to have the conference next year. We're going to have the conference championship game first weekend of December. Then we have 2 weeks off. Then the first round playoff games. Then like another 10, 11 days off. Then another 10 or 11 days off. It's like, no, don't skip weekends. Grab every single weekend in December. I just think don't give these big spaces between playoff games. I think it's better. It keeps everybody engaged. And keeps everybody interested.
I understand they may be concerned about going up against the NFL, but like, I think college football is like the only sport where they could legit, like, depending on what the NFL matchups are that weekend, college football is maybe the only thing that could go up against them and do pretty well, I think. Again, I don't have numbers to back that up, but I think, like, if you get the right matchups with the right, some big brands that people know that are big around the country, like, you could get some pretty damn big ratings. So, but again, the problem with college football is they don't have the way they're run. It's just, you basically have these different fiefdoms, with conference commissioners, and they just want to get theirs, and they don't give a shit about the larger landscape of college football and doing what's right.
That's true.
So,
but if ESPN has the TV rights, right? They could try to schedule their playoff games like on a Saturday night when there's NFL playoff games before that. Like Joel Klatt had this idea where it's like, well, we got the divisional games. Well, all right, so have 2 games on Saturday, a little bit earlier, and then have a night game that's the college football college football semifinal or something like that. Like that's one way you could do it. The other thing was to add on to that, like either college football, I think for me, what I would do is they should either get it so they can end the season on January 1st, have the national championship game January 1st, or if you're going to go into January, then the Saturday before the NFL conference championship games should be the national championship game for college football. Because I think you'll have everybody's interest then, and the Saturday night right before then, I think would be perfect. I don't know why they keep they're going to continue to put championship games on Monday night. Go figure. But I think that they should stick to Saturday. That's all I had for college football. So NFL, let's do a lottery for the draft. Nobody tanks in the NFL anyway, right? So why should we reward a team just because they're fucking terrible? And they win 2 games because they really suck. I think
even terrible teams, like you think, oh, we'll just help them out and they'll fix themselves. No, the Bears have been terrible forever. Like they can't get out of their own damn way. So it doesn't matter how many high draft picks you give them, they're going to screw it up.
Yeah, and by the way, you want to make the NFL draft more interesting and blow it out more popular? Could you imagine? Okay, if you took all the 18 NFL playoff teams or NFL teams that didn't make the playoffs and you had the draft lottery like on, March 27th or something like that, could you imagine? Like, dude, people would go crazy for that shit. All the NFL fans and everybody would be going nuts. It'd be insane. So, yeah, I don't know what the odds should be. I didn't think that far ahead, but I think we're getting to the point where I think we need to do that. The NFL I know the NFL doesn't have a tanking problem, but with these younger general managers and younger head coaches, you're going to start. I think it's going to happen eventually. So let's just get out in front of it.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
A lot of these, it's funny, Clark, when you look for changes in sports, a lot of it to me comes down to scheduling. Like it's amazing how many scheduling things that I put in here because how it affects us. So I put so each team in the NFL should get 2 bye weeks. I don't care whether there's 17 or 18 games, 2 bye weeks, and schedule one of the bye weeks before a Thursday night game. So nobody has to play these Thursday night games where they just played 4 days earlier. It's absolutely ridiculous that the NFL does that. And like to me, this is it's a positive change. You want the games to be better on Thursday night, right? You want your product to be better, right? So this is a great way to do it. And the players don't like it if they only have 1 bye week and you put it with the Thursday night game because they feel like it screws them out of, a second. They feel like their Thursday night game is like a second bye. So let's just give them a second bye. Like, I think, and you could do it. The NFL, you could keep the 17 games, and then you could have an extra week, have 18 games of, or 19 games of 19 Sundays of regular games. Like, I just think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, stuff that's, I mean, I'm just, the NFL, I mean, just a sort of a gripe that I'm starting to have, like, guys, and we talked about this before, you're diluting the product. Actually, this was one of the grievances on Festivus. You're diluting the product. Okay, I heard today the Eagles are going to start their season on a Friday night, and they're going to be playing in Brazil. I don't have a problem with them playing in Mexico or wherever, but a Friday night? Like, guys, no. The NFL, you took over Sundays, okay? That's when most of the games are. Leave most of the games there. You want to have Sunday night, you want to have Monday night, fine. The Thursday night thing, I fucking hate it, but I know you guys are going to keep doing it, whatever. But I don't want Tuesday night football or Wednesday night football or Friday night. Like, stop. Just, having playoff games on Saturdays, fine. Having some games on Saturdays later on in the season when college football is out of the way, okay. But stop doing this every, it's a scheduling thing. Just, you took out, like, one of the best things about the NFL is when it's on. Okay, compared to all the other sports, it's a huge advantage. Don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, I agree. That is their best thing going for it. This is a small thing, but I just think it's interesting. Super Bowl on Saturday night instead of Sunday. I think we've reached the point. Like now I know they won't do it because the TV ratings will tell you that you're not going to get as big an audience on Saturday night as Sunday, but I think for the Super Bowl, I kind of disagree. I think the Super Bowl bucks the trend. It's the most watched thing of every year for I don't know how many years now. So I just think we could get away with it on Saturday. And the thing is, now it does work well for them, right? If they have it Sunday night, then Monday everybody's talking about the game. All the sports shows are talking about the game. So I get what they're doing, but I feel like Saturday would be really. I don't think anybody would talk about the Super Bowl less on Monday if it was on Saturday night versus Sunday night. So,
Right.
so yeah, I just think it's an interesting idea, and then you could put it like at 8:00 on Saturday night on Eastern time.
You'll get an even bigger rating there usually,
right?
Because it's
Yeah,
prime time.
that's what I think. So but I don't know. I'm not a TV executive. I don't really know. The other one, this again, just a small thing, but I just think the way we should do it, give the road team the ball first in overtime. Don't do another coin flip. I'm stealing this idea from Colin Cowherd, by the way. But this is the idea, like, look, if you're at home, okay, and you have 11 or 12 possessions, and you can't beat this team in regulation, then you don't deserve to get the ball.
Yeah.
You get all the advantages of being at home, and you can't win the game in 60 minutes. Like, I think we just give it to the road team, because I think having certainty of what's going to happen if we go into overtime, that also makes coaching decisions easier within the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea. My thoughts in the past were always 5 minutes for overtime. Put the pressure on right off the bat because of the clock. But I actually think this might be a better way to do it.
Well, I don't think they should have overtime in the regular season at all.
Yeah.
I literally just eliminated it. It's like, you couldn't win the game, then fine, it's a tie. I don't want you playing more and injuring your, like, if you really give a shit about player safety, I don't want you playing more and getting injured, and then, like, what if you have a Thursday night game coming up and you had to play overtime on Sunday? It's like,
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I think you could be on something there. All right, NBA. More NBA in-season tournaments. I think the NBA in-season tournament was a great success. Like, if you'll notice, like, it spiked some interest in basketball right about then. Where is interest in basketball now? It's like kind of, people are just now getting back to it because of the trade deadline. I think they should do. I think there should be one tournament early in the season, like they did this year, that ends like in early mid-December. I think that's a good idea. You can take some real estate from college football or the NFL, maybe. And I think there should be another one that ends that's in some kind of conjunction with the All-Star game. I don't know how you do it. Maybe you have the finals of the. I was thinking maybe you have the finals of the in-season tournament on like a Friday night, and then you have the All-Star game on a Sunday. Like you do it at the same site or something like that. Like, I think that's how you do it. Like, get that in-season tournament and get it involved tied into the All-Star game somehow. Also, I think there should be some kind of reward that maybe leads into the next season. Like in Champions League in soccer, like if you do well in the in-season tournament, then that affects where you're at next season, whether you automatically get into the tournament the next year. Now everybody's talked about, well, there should be playoff position on the line or something like that. I think you could be more creative. Like, what if, let's say you win the in-season tournament and you get like $10 million in cap space? Let's say you're something like that, or you get an amnesty. You get to amnesty a player up to $15 million or something like that. Like, I think those kinds of things would be more interesting. Now, I get some of the players wouldn't really care about that, but what was really on the line for the players in the in-season tournament in December? Like $500,000 each? Who cares? Or $1 million each? Like, most especially the high paid players, they don't care about that.
Yeah.
I think that well, what are your thoughts on that? More in-season tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they need to do, because first of all, I mean, given that the season's way too long and they're never going to shorten it, they need to get really creative with it and try to just find different ways to generate interest. I mean, that's what they need to do.
Yeah, and I think they could do, like, I think they should do at least two. I'm trying to think, I was thinking, well, should there be one closer to the end of season so it ends right as the playoffs are ready to go? Maybe. Like, I think that's an idea worth talking about, but it didn't jump out to me. I just thought, like, getting a tournament, tying it into the All-Star game where you can get more people watching it, I just think would be a great idea. My idea for the NBA schedule, Clark, is, I think I've been on this for a while. You play each team in the league twice, so that's 58 games. You play each team in the league, one at home, one on the road. That's 58 games. And then if you have two tournaments, that's a possibility for up to like 15 extra games. So you'd play up to like 70. Let's say if you made the finals of both tournaments, you play like 72, 73 games. I think that's I think that's exactly the right way to do it, and it's fair. You play everybody evenly. It's not like, oh, if you're in this really tough conference, you play this team. The NBA schedule ends up being unbalanced because of that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then you could, like, I hate to jump on soccer, but I think the Champions League, or the way that they do the Champions League with the other leagues, is like a perfect format. You play the Champions League games in the middle of the week, and then you play your regular games on the weekends. Or you could flip it. You could do the tournament games on the weekends and have regular season games during the week. I just think if you turn these NBA games into more of an event and spaced them out and played a little bit less of them, and then it would really help. And I think if you got a different sponsor for each in-season tournament and you got money for that, well, that could make up for some of the money that you're losing by not having as many regular season games. Anyway, this one, I think the NBA should raise the age limit to 21. I don't think they'll ever do it unless the veterans get complete control of the Players Association. But I just think it would be awesome. I think it would help. It would help European basketball. It would help college basketball. It would help the NBA because these guys would come in a little bit more ready to play. So and you'd weed out some of the guys who aren't going to make it anyway. We have so many guys who come into the league and they flame out within 2 or 3 years, whatever that first contract is. So yeah, I think it'd be better for the game. It'd be more exciting for everybody. And the NBA could still have the G League, and they still have the Elite Ultimate or whatever it is. They could still have some of those leagues, and they would have 19, 20, got 20-year-old guys in there that would be kicking ass. You could get yourself even more of a TV product.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, that'd be because it is kind of ridiculous. Like they get into the league and it takes them, unless they're really, really insanely good, it takes them a few years to just really get their legs under them. I mean, people are ripping Jason Tatum, and it's like, dude, he's only 25. I mean, it's like he's just kind of getting ready to go here. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's one of those. That's one of those. It's a little pie in the sky. Like I don't think there's enough value in it for them to do it, but I think it would be great. I think they should make the first round of the NBA playoffs best of 5. I think it would be more exciting. I think it's unnecessary to play a lot of the 7-game series in the first round are kind of useless. There's usually 1 or 2 that are worth it, and if you make them 5-game series, I think it becomes really, really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be ready to go when you get into the playoffs. Baseball. I mean, the main. I didn't get to a lot with baseball, but the main thing I put was I just think they need to shorten the season, and I think if they could, they should try to have the playoffs. I put end the season around Labor Day, maybe end the regular season Labor Day, play the playoffs in September. Like I think it's a good idea before the weather gets too cold. You could even shorten it even more, in my opinion, and have like a 100-game regular season and then play the playoffs in August, because August is kind of unclaimed. Like there's nothing really going on.
Right.
So I think that would be but yeah, baseball. I think I didn't write a lot down because baseball kind of fixed a lot of their stuff. With the pitch clock and all this, the non-shifts and all the stuff, not less pitching changes and all that. I think they have done a lot of the work that we kind of wanted done anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't see much. I mean, yeah, the shortening regular season thing, it would be great, but it's just never going to happen. The economic incentive just isn't there. There's so much money they'd be giving up. And I don't, unless you can figure out some way to make that up, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to dramatically expand the playoffs, or I don't know.
What about like a College World Series style tournament? Like you do like a double elimination, like regional or whatever, where you have you do like there's like 30 teams in baseball, so you do like 7 or 8 teams in each you put them all in their own division, and then you play like double elimination games until I think baseball tournaments are not a bad idea, like the way, like kind of like the way they do the College World Series or the NCAA baseball tournament.
Yeah, that could be like an in-season kind of. Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, that would definitely break up the kind of the monotony of the baseball regular season, because it's just one game after another, one game, it just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, you could make some of a handful of the games actually matter. So I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, just baseball. I feel like they've done a lot of things right lately.
Definitely, yeah.
But so those are the changes that I would be rooting for, that I would like to see. Anything you want to add? Anything you're thinking of?
I can't. I mean, I don't know. I can't really think of anything else that we talked about. I mean, college football, just you got to have better matchups, and you got to fix some of these scheduling issues, because you got to get, given that the regular season isn't going to matter as much, you need big time matchups. You need to be having, not just in conference. You need out of conference stuff. You need big brands, a big brand in the SEC playing a big brand in the Big Ten, or I was about to say Pac-12, but that's not no longer, that, or the Big 12, or the ACC, right? You need playing different big brands, from like somewhere like, oh, we haven't really played that team before. We only played them once in our history. Yeah, you guys need to do that. You need to bring those things together, because like, oh man, we haven't seen this in forever. That's going to, help generate interest. When, look, the regular season, it's like, I've said this before, I'm going to find it hilarious next year. We're going to get later into the regular season. People are going to be like, man, it just doesn't matter as much. And it's going to be like, yeah, we're trying to tell you that when you keep expanding the playoffs. So,
Yeah, it is going to matter. And so just before we go, so what do you think about this Big Ten and SEC say that they're forming some kind of advisory committee to kind of help with the issues in college football? I saw it and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Show me don't tell me about the pregnancy. Show me the baby.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that's one of the things that's so frustrating about college football. It's like, guys, do you realize how good of a product you have? Can you guys all just get in a room and iron this shit out, and you guys can make even more money than you're making now? Like, it's one of the crazy, it's like we live in America. It's like we're a capitalist country, and like these people are just like, no, I'm just going to kind of stick with what I'm doing. Really? Like, what? This is what you're going to, okay. All right, fine.
Yeah, it's incredible how they almost have no incentive to work together. And it's like, and then it came out like, my first initial reaction was like, yeah, whatever, we'll see. The Big 12, Big 10 and Pac-12 they had an alliance 2 years ago. That didn't work out.
That? Yeah,
they gave that up in a heartbeat. So we'll see how that goes. But and then it came out that, well, they're not going to tell the NCAA what to do. They're going to advise them. And I literally just rolled my eyes. I'm like, guys, like, that's the entire point, is getting the NCAA. I mean, I'm not saying, all right, get rid of the NCAA altogether, but I'm saying, guys, the conferences and the schools, they know what the best way for them, how this should work. The NCAA should not be involved in making the decision on how this is going to work. Just come together, figure this out. And we've said this before, but I think you got everybody, every conference commissioner's secretary or logistics person, and you stuck them in a room for a weekend, they would figure this out in 3 days. I really don't think that's the crazy part. I just don't think it's that hard to figure out. It's all, how do we equitably divide up the money? That's what this whole thing is. How do we do that in an equitable way that everybody can live with? But no, everybody wants to live in their corner, and they don't want to actually try to do anything to make the sport better. And it's really disappointing. So we'll see how this advisory committee works. It's just going to be kind of funny. I just think it's, and we'll get out of here after this, but Clark, I just think it's hysterical that everybody thinks they're so innovative, and they have such a great idea on sports radio shows, when they're like, you know what, they need to just break away from the NCAA altogether and just do their own thing. That's really what they should do. And it's like, yeah, because nobody's been saying that for the last 30 fucking years. It's like, they think they're so cool. Dan Patrick thinks he's so cool because he said that. And it's like, yeah, dude, whatever. I'd love that too. But that's like living in fantasy land, literally. All that stuff I said about changes in sports, all that stuff has an infinitely better chance of happening than what you just suggested about breaking away from the NCAA.
Yeah. I don't, I mean, Yeah, I don't really foresee it's. I just feel like we're going to college sports is just going to continue this odd mishmash of stuff. I mean, there was just a story where a group of players, I don't remember the university, they got a court decision so they can form a union. So maybe that'll be the first domino, and then more players will be, be able to form a union, so they'll be treated like employees, and then they can collectively bargain to get exactly what they want. And then maybe that'll sort of change things a little bit, but I don't know. It's just, it's like we've said this a million times. If college sports didn't exist, before, and then you tried to invent it now, it would not look this way, because you're just like, this is nuts, because it evolved over time and they started just making way more money than they were making before. So it's a totally different animal now than it used to be. And so it's, unfortunately, I just think it'll just be kind of weird for the rest of its existence. Like, I just don't see, I mean, maybe the players being unionized and then them being treated like employees, and then again, they can bargain for stuff, and and then they can sort of figure out exactly how to do the NIL thing. They can negotiate with the conferences and the schools and all that, and they can figure out something, because right now things are kind of off the rails. It's a little nuts, and they can kind of make it a little more, because I want the players to get paid, but it's gotten a little crazy. So they can figure that out. They can figure out the scheduling thing in terms of when they can leave for the transfer portal and all that stuff. They can have a free agency period or something like that. So maybe that'll eventually happen. But yeah, for the time being, it's just going to be this weird thing where it's like, you guys, can you just fix this? Like, what are you doing? Like, literally, it doesn't really benefit anybody at this point. I mean, the players are getting some benefit from it, but then, some of the other kids get kind of screwed over because coaches will just leave, or players will leave. And so it's, unfortunately, I don't know they'll ever get it together.
Yeah, they're waiting for the courts to decide. They're just waiting for the NCAA to lose all these lawsuits, which is just like, we all can see it coming. Like, it's the craziest thing. Like, we saw these problems 100 miles away, not a mile away. 100. We saw all these problems coming 100 miles away, and they just don't want to deal with it. It's just, no, we're going to have an advisory committee, and it just cracks me up. They function about as well as our government does.
Well, yeah, and then it's just funny because when it comes to, like with this past year with the SEC advocating for getting an SEC team in the playoff, and then Florida State fans and ACC fans and other people on sports radio were bitching and moaning about it, and it's like, yeah, but you see the SEC, they didn't wait around. They're like, we want to get in the playoffs, so I'm going to go on all these shows and we're going to advocate for it. We're going to get on TV and we're going to tell people we should be, we should be in the playoff. Like, you can't have a playoff without the SEC in it. They didn't wait around. It's kind of, not that I'm saying, the tech industry is all that great in terms of some of this stuff. Like Facebook, their motto used to be move fast and break shit. I'm not necessarily saying they need to have that exact mindset, but on a certain level, just do shit and then apologize later. Like, if the things are going to go to court, you deal with it then. Like, just figure out what you want to do and then just do it. I mean, who's going to stop you? Like, really?
Well, listen, Clark, we all know it's a conspiracy. I mean, ESPN got Nick Saban, like they put Nick Saban in Alabama in the playoffs, so now Nick Saban will work for ESPN. It was all set up beforehand. I don't know why you don't realize
just
that.
Just like Taylor Swift, man. Just like Taylor Swift. Yeah. Can I say real quick before we get off? I'll just say this real quick. Okay. I don't want this to get misinterpreted. I really don't care about that one way or the other. Like, let me just put it this way: I don't care one way or the other. Like, I'm not in a negative way. I'm not being cynical. I really don't care if her and Travis Kelce are dating and they're happy. Good for you. I And by the way, if they're going to show, if she comes to the game and they show her, I really don't care. Like, I don't. I'm not going to watch the halftime show. I don't care. You guys have fun. I just don't. I don't care. And it's not in a negative way. I just don't care.
Well, remember the Super Bowl where they kept showing Alex Rodriguez and Cameron Diaz the whole time? It was just like,
oh, yeah.
It's like, this is how it works, man. Like, if the Cowboys win it, they show Jerry Jones 17 times. That's how it works.
What is it? Yeah, I really don't care. Yeah, it's
all right.
Good for them.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Tell me what you think about my sports changes. Tell me if you think I'm nuts, if you like any of them. If you have some good ideas, we'll put we'll talk about it on the show. And yeah, everybody enjoy the game. I just hope we just have a good game. That's all I'm rooting for every
just
year.
not a bad game.
Don't really
just give us
care
a
who
good one.
wins, and just give us some good stuff. And all right, everybody, take care.